Kaname Sudou, an ordinary boy, unlike yourself, who makes a foolish choice by opening a mysterious app even though his friend warned him about it. Within moments, he's bitten by a snake, and his life turns into a living nightmare. Thrown into a survival game where reality feels like a twisted version of a video game, Kaname discovers that everyone has powers, and most of them want him dead. Wishing only for a normal life, Kaname is forced to fight for survival in a world where danger lurks at every turn. The anime starts with a boy named Hamada running in the streets as if he has a psychopath behind him. Turns out, he actually does. It's a furry freak wearing a bear mascot helmet, chasing after him with a knife. Hamada wonders who he can call for help and thinks about his friend Yoda, but then decides he can't trust him enough, so he calls Kaname instead. Unfortunately, he runs into a dead end and the furry dude catches up. Hamada tries to fight back and throws a bunch of paper cutters at him like some kindergartner. The furry guy simply dodges the blades and then slashes his neck. After that, he stands there and looks at his new victim who just got skill-gapped and lost. The following morning, Kaname checks out some cool second-hand heavy bikes online while wondering about his broke self and empty pockets. Just then, his friend Yoda walks up and asks if he saw the street art outside the station. Apparently, some pixelated body outlines have been popping up everywhere in Shibuya, and people are freaking out over them. He shows Kaname some pictures and finds them creepy yet interesting. Just then, their friend Hiroyuki walks in and asks if they've seen Hamada anywhere. They assume he's absent and ask how he and Hamada got their new bikes and if they've landed some sweet part-time job. Hiroyuki says it's nothing like that and tells them to let him know if they see Hamada. Kaname then realizes he got a weird notification from Hamada last night and decides to check it. Turns out, it's a download link to some free-to-play mobile game. Like a total nerd, he instantly opens it. The game is called Darwin's Game, and they wonder if Hamada just got hooked on it and is skipping school because of it. Knowing what's up, Hiroyuki turns around and tells Kaname not to open the app. But like a typical player, Kaname does the exact opposite and launches the game. Suddenly, a snake comes out of the screen and bites his neck. Kaname collapses, while his phone screen reads that he has been confirmed as a new player. It also states that his friend Hamada is already dead and that the game will begin in an hour. His friends carry him to the infirmary and he wakes up shortly after. The nurse tells him to go back to class if he's feeling alright, but he claims he's feeling awful and fills out a form for an early leave. He then meets up with Hiroyuki and Yoda, who are also planning to ditch class. Yoda suggests karaoke, but Hiroyuki pulls Kaname aside and says he needs to talk about something serious, the game Hamada sent him. He plans to meet Kaname at his house tonight to explain everything. Kaname, still confused as heck, shrugs it off and goes to enjoy his day with Yoda. Later that afternoon, while riding the train home, Kaname decides to do the dumbest thing possible. He opens the Darwin's Game app. Ignoring his friend's warning, he sees his character on screen and assumes it's just a normal game. His battle and wins counter reads 0, with a start button below. He presses it and instantly gets paired with a psychotic furry murderer, Banda-kun. Kaname recognizes Banda as the local baseball club's mascot and wonders how the game got his name and avatar when he hasn't even made an account yet. Just then, he looks up and sees the real Banda sitting across from him, holding a knife. Banda gets up and starts walking toward him like a creep before suddenly lunging with a heavy attack. Kaname dodges sideways and asks what the heck he's doing, but Banda remains silent, attacking him relentlessly. Kaname blocks the knife with his bag, kicks Banda back, and runs for his life. He rushes into a police station and tells an officer that a freak is trying to eliminate him. The officer stops Banda and tries to arrest him, but Banda simply calls him cannon fodder and strikes him in one strike. He then turns back to Kaname for the finishing blow, but suddenly gets shot in the back with a crossbow. Turns out, Hiroyuki is standing behind him with the weapon. He tells Kaname that he'll win the match if he can either escape the assassin or run out the timer. Banda, irritated, uses an invisibility jutsu and disappears like a weeb's social life, but Hiroyuki activates his power and lands another arrow in Banda's helmet. Banda's invisibility wears off, but he charges forward like a maniac and stabs Hiroyuki in the stomach. Kaname grabs Hiroyuki and runs to get him to an ambulance. Kaname asks what's going on and how Banda turned invisible. Hiroyuki explains that it must be the power of his sigil and that this is Darwin's Game. They hide in a parking building, but Hiroyuki reveals that while inside the game, they can't call or message anyone outside of it. Meanwhile, Banda roughly tracks their location through the game's mechanics and starts closing in. Kaname receives a message from someone named Shuka who offers to help him. Hiroyuki tells Kaname to run and leave him behind, since Banda can easily track his position. Kaname baits Banda into chasing him, leading him to a bathroom. He hides in a locker, but Banda whips out a stolen police gun and starts shooting the stalls. Just then, Kaname pulls an Uno reverse, jumps him from behind with a fire extinguisher, and knocks him down. Kaname starts punching him, but Banda lands a single punch that sends Kaname flying. As Banda approaches with his knife, Kaname thinks he's done for, but then plot armor kicks in. Out of nowhere, a speeding car crashes into the invisible Banda, sending him flying into a wall. The NPC drivers panic and drive away, unaware that they just saved Kaname's life. Banda reappears, pixelates, and dies, leaving behind a pixelated body outline. Kaname realizes he just won his first match. Remembering Hiroyuki, he rushes back to his location, only to find another pixelated outline, confirming his friend is dead. He receives a final message from Hiroyuki, survive. Elsewhere, a blonde girl named Shuka sees a notification that Kaname defeated Banda. She gets excited, looking forward to playing the game with him. The next morning, Kaname wakes up at home and checks his game logs. He sees he ranked up to D3 and unlocked the gacha feature. He spins for 1 point and wins a 2-star handgun. Suddenly, a package gets thrown into his apartment. It's the gun, delivered by Amazon, but cursed. He messages Shuka, and they agree to meet at an abandoned warehouse that night, where she'll explain more about the game. At first, Kaname is skeptical about meeting Shuka, but he decides to go anyway, otherwise, he'll never learn anything about the game. He leaves his gun behind but spends all his allowance on a backpack full of self-defense tools. Meanwhile, some players from the 8th clan wipe the floor with a group of Yakuza members, utterly destroying them and killing everyone, including their boss. They seem to be investigating recent player deaths, and one case remains unresolved. Later that night, Kaname meets up with Shuka in the warehouse. She allows him to ask one question before she fully trusts him. He asks how to quit the game, but she tells him that the only way out is either to die or to win it completely. Kaname thinks this is total BS, but Shuka reminds him that she didn't make the rules, she's just another player. She then starts questioning him, asking about his sigil. She explains that when a new player starts the game, they're bitten by a snake that grants them a unique evolutionary power, allowing them to play the game naturally. Even if they don't know what their sigil is, they should still be able to use it instinctively, and its name should appear on their screen. Kaname checks his screen, but it just says error. Seeing this, Shuka decides she can't trust someone who doesn't even know their own sigil and attacks him. Kaname blinds her with a flashlight and runs for his life. He dashes toward the entrance, but Shuka locks the doors remotely and attacks him from behind with a modified chain. Kaname hides behind some pipes, but Shuka turns on all the lights and walks into the open. He checks all the exits, but they're all locked. Shuka tells him he has nowhere left to run. She says she was going easy on him so he could show his sigil. But since he's a letdown, she's going to finish him off. Shuka's sigil lets her control her chains with her mind, and she uses them to chase Kaname as he runs for his life. While escaping, Kaname starts complaining like a League of Legends player, blaming the game's design and whining about how unbalanced it is. He cries out that if he just had a weapon, he could fight back. Suddenly, a gun appears in his hands, and he wonders if the devs finally listened to his pleas. He turns and fires at Shuka, who barely dodges the bullet. Kaname keeps running while Shuka chases him, and he keeps telling her to call it a draw. He doesn't want to fight. At one point, he gets a short breather and remembers what she said about sigils being as natural as breathing. Thinking back to when he made the gun appear, he tests his sigil again, creating some tape and wire to set a trap. He lures Shuka near the electricity box and fires a gun taped to a pipe. She dodges, but the bullet hits the breaker, cutting the lights. Kaname reveals that he had already adjusted his eyes to the darkness so he could attack in the shadows. He rushes at her while dodging her chains. Getting close, he creates a stun gun in his hand, knocks Shuka down, and pins her to the ground with his handgun aimed at her face. He tells her he doesn't want her to vanish like the others. Realizing he's telling the truth and genuinely doesn't understand the game, she accepts defeat. She explains that this is called total points lost measure and agrees to obey his orders. Some of her points get transferred to Kaname, and our dude officially earns his first harem member. After the fight, Kaname collapses onto Shuka's lap and falls asleep. When he wakes up, he finds himself in her bed. Shuka is officially in his harem now with all clothes off and lying in his lap. She asks him for a favor, and Kaname, thinking that he is finally about to get lucky, asks her what she wants. Shuka replies that she wants to make a family with him. What a lucky dude indeed. Later we see an underage tech chick with a hard setup monitoring Kaname and Shuka's fight. Turns out she is the hacker of the anime and sells information for points. She points out Kanami's extraordinary ability and ranks him as an A-rank player for defeating the psychotic panda and the undefeated chain queen, Shuka. The lowly looks forward to his upcoming exploits and gets excited as she can sell his information for quite a fortune. Shuka also informs Kaname about the shelter feature, which lets players trade 10 points to have their names removed from the class match competitor list. Curious, Kaname checks his balance and finds it sitting at 639 points after his victory against Shuka the previous night. After processing all this information, he agrees to her request to form a clan. She explains that creating a clan requires a minimum rank of B2. He questions why she doesn't start it herself since she's already ranked A4, but she insists that in moments like these, it's a man's job to take charge, and we all know where this is going, right? With that settled, she tells him she'll call them later that night, and they part ways. On his way home, Kaname decides to test out the cash conversion feature by exchanging 10 points, just to see how the system works. To his surprise, his bank account gets credited with $1,000,000. For the American weebs reading this, that translates to around $6,700, probably more than what you have in your savings. The next day, Kaname heads to the Moe statue in Shibuya, which is oddly covered with a plastic sheet. Soon after, Shuka shows up and announces that they're going on their first date. He asks about the event modification they all received, and she explains that the upcoming event will take place right there in Shibuya. Naturally, they need to familiarize themselves with the area before it begins. For now, she decides they should head to Yoyogi Park. As they walk, she goes over some essential game rules with him. Rule number 1, never reveal the existence of the game to normies or leak any details to outsiders. The safest way to refer to it in public is simply as the game. Some players also call it the D game. She also warns him to be especially cautious in Shibuya, as a recent incident resulted in the deaths of 12 players near the covered statue. That area is also controlled by the 8th clan, and it's usually swarming with players. Afterward, they return to the station and browse through some malls while Shuka picks out new clothes. Meanwhile, a player known as the Analyst, who has been closely monitoring Kaname's activities and achievements, sells information about him to a member of the Danjo boxing club. In exchange, she requests intel on the newly announced treasure hunt event. He responds that not every player received the notification and that details are scarce. With that, he heads off, scheming something involving Kaname. Meanwhile, Kaname is standing outside, waiting for Shuka to finish putting on her makeup, when suddenly a stranger snatches his phone. The culprit, a guy from the boxing club, reveals his face and orders Kaname to follow him. As they walk, he remarks that even though other players can't use someone else's phone for the game, losing a device is still a major inconvenience. So, Kaname should be smart and comply. He leads Kaname into a secluded alley and mentions that people have been talking about him, the solo newcomer who took down both the notorious rookie hunter and the undefeated queen. With that, he challenges Kaname to an impromptu fight, stating that he's eager to test his strength against a formidable opponent and climb the ranking ladder. Kaname protests, saying he never wanted to fight in the first place and got dragged into the game without knowing what he was signing up for. The boxer, however, isn't buying that excuse and attacks. The trained fighter lands a clean punch to Kaname's face, sending him crashing to the ground. Disappointed, he mocks Kaname, telling him to call Shuka or whoever takes care of him, so they can come pick up his beaten body before he finishes the job. But Kaname suddenly flips the script, saying, "Surprise, mother flipper," as he shocks the boxer's leg with a stun gun. He then declares that he isn't part of any team, he plays alone, and prepares to strike again. The boxer is momentarily stunned, wondering where Kaname had been hiding the device. His first instinct, did he store it? You know where. But he quickly brushes off that thought and realizes it must be tied to his signal. Kaname rushes in for another strike, but his opponent counters with a well-placed knee to the face, knocking him back. Realizing he needs leverage, Kaname holds his phone hostage, pressing the stun gun against it and threatening to fry the device unless the boxer surrenders. Meanwhile, Shuka steps out of the restroom, wondering where her slave boy disappeared to. Just then, she gets a call from the analyst, who informs her that the person she was investigating doesn't appear to belong to the Danjo boxing club. She also checked into the 8th clan and found little information on their newest recruit, 6, but doesn't think he is the one they're looking for. As for Wang, he's a complete mystery because he eliminates anyone who crosses his path, and necromancy isn't exactly in her skill set. Shuka tells the analyst that she'll pay triple if she can dig up more information on her target. The analyst then asks if she wants details on Kaname instead. The mere mention of his name sends Shuka into a rage, and she demands every scrap of intel on him, warning that her life depends on it. Determined to find him, she heads out and stumbles upon Kaname locked in battle with the blonde boxer. Without hesitation, she attacks, sending her chains flying toward the opponent. but he manages to dodge every single strike. Meanwhile, Kaname makes one final threat, forcing the boxer to surrender, introducing himself as Inukai from the Danjo boxing club. He hands Kaname's phone back and informs them that the treasure hunt event is about to begin. As they check their phone screens, teleportation boxes suddenly encase their bodies. Shuka explains that this always happens before an event begins and that it looks like they're all going to be separated. With that, Kaname finds himself transported to a hotel room. He looks at the screen, wondering if this is really just an innocent treasure hunt. The event has a total of 300 participants, including Wang, the analyst, and several others. The goal is simple: collect rings. Anyone who fails to gather at least 3 rings before the event ends will meet their game over. The Hunger Games Treasure Hunt Edition kicks off when a girl in a school uniform launches a fiery attack at Wang, only to immediately plummet to her death from a rooftop. And with that, the slaughter begins. Meanwhile, Shuka is wandering the streets of Shibuya in search of her pet, Kaname, when she stumbles upon the chalk outline of the girl who had fallen earlier. A crowd has gathered, snapping pictures, but suddenly, a high-pitched noise rings out from above. As soon as it fades, all the regular civilians start walking away like hypnotized puppets. Shuka deduces that the game organizers must have triggered this phenomenon to keep ordinary people from interfering with the event. Back at the hotel, Kaname reads through the event instructions, narrated by the snake mascot on the app. This is a treasure hunt where players can collect points by gathering rings scattered across the area. There are 7 types of rings, each adorned with different gems, and each one carries a unique point value. Players can battle each other for possession of these rings, and all participants are forced into Battle Royale mode, disabling their search functions until the event concludes. However, they do gain access to a map display and an AR camera app to assist in the hunt. Most crucially, any player who doesn't collect at least 3 rings by the end of the event is eliminated. Leaving the event zone also results in instant disqualification. Kaname realizes that only 300 rings are available in this round, meaning that 2/3 of the players will be eliminated. This doesn't sound very fair or fun to him. Feeling anxious, he attempts to call his mommy Shuka for reassurance but is promptly denied by the game's operator, who informs him that players can only communicate using the in-game chat feature. Using the map display, Kaname spots several rings in the vicinity, and then switches to the AR camera, revealing a ruined cityscape. Various red markers indicate ring locations, and one happens to be right under his bed. He quickly retrieves it. It appears as a golden ring in the real world but a ruby bracelet in AR. It's worth 500 points, equivalent to $335,000, more money than L's broke self could dream of. As he steps outside his room, he nearly jumps out of his skin upon seeing a chalk outline just outside his door. He tries to sneak past it, only to be caught in another outline on the wall. Realizing he's in serious danger, he notes that multiple players must be inside the hotel, and his only chance of survival is escaping to the outside. Checking the AR camera again, he sees multiple red dots moving across different floors, players who have already claimed rings. He rushes to the elevator but quickly rethinks his decision, opting for the stairwell instead. Summoning a handgun with his sigil, he braces himself as he hears footsteps approaching. But his confidence crumbles when he sees none other than Ghost from Call of Duty, armed with a machine gun, ready to shred him to pieces. Kaname bolts down the stairs, but massive tree roots block the ground floor exits. With no other choice, he makes a run for the elevator. Ghost catches up, declaring that it's game over. Desperate, Kaname throws his ring at him, hoping to buy his way out. But Ghost doesn't budge. He eyes him, clearly thinking Kaname has something else to offer. Kaname pleads for his life, insisting he has nothing of value. But Ghost coldly states that anyone who holds a gun should be ready to take a bullet. Ghost pulls the trigger, only for his gun to jam. Seizing the opportunity, Kaname turns his gun on him and demands surrender. Ghost, unimpressed, taunts him, fully aware that Kaname lacks the resolve to shoot. Casually, Ghost fixes his gun right in front of him before stepping into the elevator, declaring Kaname unworthy of his bullets. As Ghost disappears, Kaname collapses, questioning why people enjoy eliminating. But regardless of his morals, he understands that to survive, he must collect 3 rings, meaning he might have to kill. Accepting this grim reality, he prepares to move forward. Just then, as he steps toward the elevator, a voice calls out. Turning, he sees a young girl warning him not to get inside. She introduces herself as Rien, an analyst, and points out Ghost's lifeless body, now wrapped in vines and branches. She explains that someone with a plant-based sigil must be controlling the building, trapping players inside. Kaname recalls seeing over 10 players earlier, while Rien states there were initially 25. Seeing no other choice, they decide to team up until they escape. Meanwhile, outside the game zone, elite spectators gather to watch the treasure hunt unfold. The announcer reveals the top scorer, Shuka, with 6 rings and 1,900 points. Despite her previous defeat against Solo Move, she remains a formidable contender. The second place belongs to Wang, leader of the 8th clan, with 5 rings, while his clan collectively holds 18. Below them, it's a free-for-all. The casino host, Themis, enters and greets an old, wealthy-looking man. She introduces herself as the manager of the Trinity. As they observe the game, they see 4 players chasing Shuka, believing their numbers give them the upper hand. But she swiftly dispatches 2 and baits the rest into a pointless chase before finishing them off, casually wondering what Kaname is up to. The old man remarks that Shuka would be perfect if she were a boy. Themis side-eyes his misogynistic remark but refocuses on the event, stating that the players and viewers alike benefit from this blood sport. Back at the hotel, Rian gives Kaname a motivational speech about the nobility of running away rather than killing. He appreciates her wisdom and scavenges Ghost's machine gun for himself. Checking the stairwell, he realizes they'd need a chainsaw to break through the vines but can't create one yet. Considering an escape through the windows, Rian shuts down the idea, pointing out they're 40 stories up. She may be a side character, but she's not suicidal. As they ascend, Kaname asks if she knows who's controlling the plants. She mentions a mysterious player known as the Florist, a shadowy figure who never reveals himself, relying entirely on plant-based traps. She reassures Kaname that as long as they stay on the upper floors, they should be safe. But something doesn't add up. If the players in the elevator were killed, why weren't they teleported out of the game? That means they're still alive and coming for them. Activating the R camera, Kaname spots several figures moving in their direction. He grabs Rian, and they sprint as zombie-like players with branches protruding from them give chase. Rian tosses a flash grenade to slow them down, and they retreat upstairs. Kaname theorizes that the Florist is controlling the players with a plant-based neurotoxin and some form of tracking mechanism. But there's no plant life around them, so how are they being monitored? He suddenly realizes the answer: the surveillance cameras. With a smirk, Kaname shoots out a nearby camera, vowing to find the Florist's hideout and put an end to his voyeuristic spying. After that, they both sprint through the building, systematically destroying as many cameras as possible. Eventually, they slip into a locked room that Rian had prepared beforehand upon arriving at the building. Once inside, they strategize their next move and devise a 2-man plan. One will cause a diversion with bombs while the other hunts down the target for a decisive one-on-one battle. Meanwhile, Flores orders his men to sweep the hallways in pairs, clearing each floor one by one. As his men complete their rounds, he starts piecing together the couple's movements and deduces their exact location based on the route they took to eliminate the cameras. He wonders if they possess some special tool allowing them to break into a locked room without access to the keys, which are securely stored on the first floor, currently obstructed by thick tree roots. His men eventually breach the room but find it deserted. Noting clear signs that the pair had been there, Flores insists they must be close. Suddenly, an explosion erupts from a few floors below. He immediately dispatches his men to the barricade at the staircase on the 26th floor. There, we see Min attempting to blast through the thick roots with explosives. However, the roots prove too sturdy as anticipated. She then throws a flash grenade, stunning the brain-dead players pursuing her, and uses a stun gun to disable them as she pushes forward. Sprinting up the stairs, she maneuvers gracefully, dodging bullets with movements reminiscent of Neo from the Matrix. Her secret weapon is her signal, an extraordinary ability that allows her to calculate the precise location and influence of every atom in her surroundings. This grants her limited precognition, effectively making her skill a knockoff of the Shariman. This ability, called Le Place, is named after the demonic concept. She utilizes it to gather and trade intelligence, ensuring her survival in the D game. In addition to her sharp instincts, she can evade attacks and take down opponents as if wielding advanced observation haki. Using her superior abilities, she guns down her pursuers, leaving Flores deeply intrigued by her signal. Meanwhile, Kaname goes berserk, climbing down to the first floor using a rope dangling from a window. Upon reaching the main reception hall, he advances toward the surveillance room. At that moment, the florist himself emerges, expressing a desire to talk before they descend into a pointless deathmatch. He then questions Kaname's reasons for playing the game. Kaname explains that he was unwillingly dragged into it. Flores, on the other hand, admits he plays for money, explaining that a human life is valued at roughly 100 to 200 million yen, equivalent to about 670,000 to 1.35 million dollars. Without further hesitation, Flores activates his plant-based armor and charges at Kaname. Kaname lobs a bomb at him, but it has no effect. The florist retaliates by leaping down with a powerful punch that shatters the floor. Kaname swiftly evades and fires at him with his handgun, but Flores counters by summoning vines from the ground to disarm him. Seeing this, Kaname declares that it's time to get serious. Using his signal, he replicates a machine gun he had previously encountered and unleashes a barrage of bullets. To his shock, the bullets ricochet harmlessly off the florist's hardened armor, and a vine lashes out, destroying the gun in his hands. Flores declares checkmate, asserting that he has analyzed Kaname's signal and discerned its limits. While Kaname can replicate any weapon he has seen, his ability has restrictions. Kaname acknowledges the truth in his words, realizing he can only activate his power a handful of times due to the intense headache and pain it inflicts. Despite this, he fabricates another machine gun and hurls a bomb at the plant-covered foe. Flores, having anticipated the move, rushes in close, ready to land a finishing blow. But Kaname smirks, his eyes shut, while holding a flash grenade. He detonates it, momentarily blinding Flores, and vanishes from sight. Kaname attempts to escape, but Flores quickly recovers and catches up, delivering a powerful punch to his stomach that sends him flying. Struggling to his feet, Kaname fires again, but Flores raises a shield, effortlessly deflecting the bullets before countering with another vine attack that knocks him back. Lying on the ground, Kaname watches as the florist strides toward him. Just when he believes it's over, his plot armor activates. A voice from within speaks. It is his signal, revealing hidden knowledge about his power. Not only can he replicate weapons, but he also gains complete insight into their mechanics and optimal usage. Recalling that Flores was forced to shield himself from his earlier shots, Kaname deduces that his bullets must be capable of penetrating the armor under the right conditions. With newfound resolve, Kaname rises and fires relentlessly. This time, he modifies the gun, shortening its lifespan in exchange for heightened pressure and firepower. The enhanced bullets pierce straight through the wooden armor. Both combatants push their abilities to the limit before collapsing. Flores succumbs first, securing Kaname's victory. The defeated florist urges him to finish the job, but Kaname refuses, nonchalantly suggesting that he die of some disease or something, as he has no interest in taking lives. Just then, Rien appears behind Flores, aiming her gun at his head. She demands to know how many rings are in the building. Flores reveals that there are approximately 24. She then asks if he was aware that the leader of the 8th clan is also competing in the event. She explains that most of the strongest players have already collected the available rings, signaling the impending conclusion of the first stage. This means that the 8th clan will soon launch an assault to claim their rings, and given their current state of exhaustion, they won't be able to defend themselves. To stand a chance, she proposes forming an impromptu alliance to resist the 8th clan, increasing their odds of survival. After establishing their ransacked clan, they take a break to recover and regain their strength. Kaname sleeps for 3 hours while Haraji reinforces their defenses with additional barricades to prevent intrusions. Once Kaname wakes up, they regroup on a single floor and decide to approach Ghost. They offer him 3 rings and set him free in exchange for his assurance that he won't act aggressively toward them during the event. Initially, they invite him to join their clan, but he declines, refusing to collaborate with the plant user who had once brainwashed him. When he asks about the 2 other players who were with him, they explain that they handed them 3 rings and allowed them to leave after treating their wounds. With that issue resolved, they turn their attention to strategizing against the 8th clan. Ghost grows enraged upon hearing their name and considers joining their ranks purely to take revenge on Wang. Kaname also informs them that Shuka is on her way to the hotel, which will bring their clan's total members to 5. Meanwhile, Wang and his gang scheme to launch a full-scale attack on the hotel, aiming to wipe out the solo new clan and seize their 20 ring bands. While you process the chaotic plan, let's break down Wang's strategy. He plans to strike at night, bringing over 20 of his clan members, including some who aren't even part of the event, to overpower the hotel's players and steal all their rings. So far, his clan has accumulated more than 32 rings, and he is determined to amass at least 50 to claim victory in the event and unlock the rumored special privileges associated with the title. Back at the hotel, Kaname and his allies convene around a table to devise their strategy. They agree to split the rings fairly, awarding half of the points to the florist since he carried the bulk of the workload in this stage. Rather than launching a direct assault on the 8th clan, they decide to wait for them to make a move and counterattack when they attempt to claim the rings. Ghost removes his helmet, revealing his name as Ruji, and expresses his desire to take down Wang due to a personal history between them. He then questions whether their plan is actually feasible. Rien reassures him that the 8th clan will undoubtedly fall into their trap. But even if they don't, their team already has all the required rings, making their victory inevitable. As they deliberate further, Rien points out an inconsistency in the event's rules. She notes that the points aren't awarded based on the ring's rarity, which seems unusual. Additionally, the event's guidelines don't explicitly state that the rings themselves are the real treasure, or specify what is necessary to clear the event. This raises the suspicion that the true treasure is something else entirely. Ryuji suggests that they focus on defeating the 8th clan first before unraveling the deeper mystery behind the event. He then inquires about Shuka's arrival, prompting Kaname to check his messages. His expression quickly darkens. Shuka has sent him an urgent distress call asking for help. At Shibuya Station, Shuka moves through the underground tunnels, oblivious to the fact that a white-haired girl is silently trailing her. She scans the area for rings but finds none. Convinced that there might be hidden locations, she presses forward. However, she suddenly senses an ominous presence. Moments later, a torrent of water surges toward her, but she manages to evade it. Realizing she's up against an opponent's sigil, she sprints toward the exit, only to find the white-haired girl blocking her path. Shuka retaliates with her chains, but the water in front of her instantly freezes, nullifying her attack. Refusing to back down, she reshapes her chains into a drill to pierce through, only for her opponent to freeze them as well, rendering them useless. With no other choice, she turns and dashes toward another exit. But water begins flooding the station, swiftly engulfing her. Just before she is submerged, she manages to send Kaname a desperate plea for help. Kaname immediately resolves to rescue Shuka, and Ryuji volunteers to accompany him, bringing his gun. Shuka offers to provide cover from the rooftop as a sniper, while the florist remains behind to defend their stronghold. Kaname and Ryuji set off, noting that Shuka's location is merely a 5-minute walk away. Moving carefully, they carry no rings to avoid unnecessary skirmishes. As they traverse the deserted streets of Shibuya, Kaname observes that only 168 players remain out of the original 300, making the city feel like a high-stakes war zone. As they walk, Kaname explains the details of his sigil, mentioning that he can only replicate basic weaponry and certain items, while complex machinery like smartphones and vehicles remain beyond his abilities. He then asks Ryuji about his motivation for playing in his own sigil. Ryuji admits that his primary goal is wealth, and he complains that his sigil, which he deems useless, merely allows him to detect lies. Jokingly, he curses the game developers for poor balancing. As they near the underground station, they spot the white-haired girl from before. Ryuji calls out to her, warning that if she doesn't reveal herself, his companion will throw a grenade. The girl hesitantly steps forward, and Kaname notes that she appears even younger than Rien. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, Rien discovers a QR code on one of the rings and scans it with her phone, revealing a numeric sequence. The florist joins her, and they scan all the rings in their possession, uncovering different codes on each one, with some rings sharing identical codes. This revelation further supports their suspicion that the event's true treasure isn't the rings themselves. They deduce that they must collect all types of rings to assemble the full code and uncover the event's actual objective. Back at the underground station, the girl insists that she is unarmed and won't attack them. Ryuji verifies her claim and allows her to pass. However, as they reach the entrance, she warns them not to go inside, claiming it is extremely dangerous. Ryuji immediately detects her deception. As they descend the staircase, they find the entire station submerged. Determined to save Shuka, Kaname tells Ryuji that if he doesn't return within 5 minutes, he should entrust his rings to the girl and head back to the hotel. Once Kaname disappears into the floodwaters, Ryuji points his gun at the girl, stating that she has already lied once and that he doesn't want to harm a child. He demands that she reveal everything she knows about the flooded station. Instead of answering, she uses her sigil to manipulate water from a nearby fire hydrant, freezing his trigger before making a run for it. Realizing she is linked to the flood and likely holds valuable information, Ghost gives chase, determined to uncover the truth. The child dashes into a building and hides, only to reveal they have multiple personality disorder. The body belongs to a girl named Sui, but she shares it with the soul of her brother, Shoda. Shoda possesses the ice signal, while Sui wields the water signal. She is reluctant to take a life, but Shoda is more pragmatic, understanding that they must acquire the rings if they wish to survive this event. Ghost calls out, urging them to come forward for a conversation. But Shoda scoffs, "Yeah, right, like we'd fall for that," before strategizing with Sui on how to defeat him. Sui agrees and manipulates the water from the nearby sewers, but Ghost swiftly evades the ice spikes and starts firing aimlessly to flush them out. Thinking quickly, Shoda devises a plan, using his phone as bait to lure Ghost into the store. As Ghost enters the drinks aisle and spots the phone on the ground, he is momentarily puzzled by the child's intentions. Suddenly, water gushes from the bottles, drenching him before freezing solid in an instant. Shoda approaches and declares that this is the end, but Sui intervenes, stopping his hand, insisting she cannot live at the cost of another's life. Meanwhile, Kaname swims through the frigid waters and comes across the ice wall imprisoning Shuka. He fires at it with his gun, creating an opening, then uses his app to locate Shuka and rescues her by swimming just above the surface. He tries to revive her, but she remains unconscious. Unsure of what else to do, he attempts CPR, finally bringing her back to life. Upon waking, she immediately kisses Kaname in gratitude for saving her. She then reveals that she entered this game to avenge her parents and eliminate their murderer. Moreover, she wants to track down and punish the game's creator for toying with people's lives. Kaname agrees, relieved that they share the same goals, especially the desire to take down the mastermind behind this twisted game. He then uses his signal to form chains for her, and she utilizes her abilities to break them, allowing them to escape the underground station. As night falls, Wang prepares explosives and weaponry alongside his men, readying an assault on the hotel. Amid these preparations, he scans the QR code on the rings, contemplating the method to win the game. Just then, the second stage of the event commences, with additional rings materializing across the map. Wang seizes the opportunity and launches his attack. With new rings appearing, including diamonds and emeralds, chaos erupts as battles commence all over the battlefield. Kaname contacts Rin about the unfolding events, and she informs him about the QR codes, requesting that he send her the emerald ring code they had obtained from Sui. Kaname complies, and Rin states she will secure the diamond ring code to complete the puzzle. Meanwhile, Shuka and Sui come face to face, and Sui expresses remorse for her actions. She declares her intention to withdraw from the conflict, stating that she refuses to kill just to ensure her own survival. To test the sincerity of her words, Shuka launches an attack, but ultimately forgives her upon realizing that Sui's involvement had, in a twisted way, brought her closer to Kaname. Talk about embracing masochism. Sui then utilizes her signal to dry their clothing and admits that she struggles with her powers, whereas her brother is far more adept at handling the ice sigil. Taking this into account, Shuka extends an invitation for Sui to join their clan, assuring her that fighting and killing are not required. She can contribute in other ways, such as handling laundry and tidying up. Spoken like a true master, Sui accepts, and their clan begins to take shape. Ghost remarks that he is indifferent to the arrangement, so long as he gets to take someone down. Kaname reminds him that their ultimate objective is survival, not murder, and he would do well to remember that. Rin wonders about their next move when she suddenly receives Kaname's message containing the final code. He informs Shuka that they will abandon their rings and instead pursue the real prize, aiming to bring the event to a conclusion and secure victory. He relays the plan to Rin and instructs her to escape the hotel and regroup with them. Rin shares Kaname's strategy with Haraji and announces her departure, as facing 20 to 30 members of the 8th alone is an impossible feat. Haraji, however, explains that he has a sick daughter around Rin's age and needs significant funds for her medical treatment. He chooses to clear the game using the confirmed points from the rings rather than gambling on an uncertain treasure. Allowing Rin to leave, he remains behind at the hotel, securing all 20 rings and setting additional traps for the approaching invaders. Wang's men storm in, launching attacks on the plants with explosives while their newest recruit, Sig, leads them with his fire-wielding signal. He asserts that they should avoid the elevators, as they are likely rigged with traps, though, with him present, it hardly matters. To prove his point, he steps into an elevator, stating that he will clear the way and the others can follow once it's safe. Inside, he is ambushed by vines descending from the ceiling, but he incinerates them effortlessly with his flames, reducing them to charred remnants. Upon reaching the upper floors, he surveys the area and notices the rings have been scattered across various levels, suspecting that their targets may have fled to save themselves. He swiftly relays this information to his comrades, instructing them to take the same elevator up, confident that victory is within reach. His men opt to split into two groups, taking separate elevators, but as the second elevator descends, they are met with an unexpected sight. Haraji steps out in his formidable wooden armor and launches a relentless assault. He seizes one of the attackers and demands to know Wang's whereabouts, but his foes prove to be reckless, opting to blow themselves up rather than surrender. Despite their reckless sacrifice, Haraji annihilates them all before re-entering the elevator, prepared to confront Sig. Sig grows impatient, questioning the delay, only to be taken aback when Haraji emerges from the elevator, drenched in blood and clad in his wooden armor. With his fire signal activated, Sig braces himself as they prepare for an intense battle. Meanwhile, Rin manages to escape safely and starts running towards Kaname and the others. On her way, she ponders the goal of the game's admin and whether they have abandoned their concern about exposing normies to their game with this large-scale event. Setting that thought aside, she focuses on the codes she obtained from all the rings. Initially, she struggled to find the connection between them, but she eventually realized they must be arranged in order based on the hardness of the gems. The clue was that Ruby and Sapphire shared the same number, and once arranged accordingly, the code revealed coordinates leading to the event's center, Shibuya Station. This suggests that the real treasure must be hidden somewhere inside. Back at the hotel, Haraji reflects on the information he received from Rin regarding the 8th clan members. She warned him to be cautious of 2 specific members, Kai and Sig. Kai possesses telekinetic abilities, while Sig can manipulate flames. Sig is a rare pyromancer who can engulf his entire body in intense flames, making him the toughest opponent for Haraji's plant-based abilities. Haraji attempts to face him head-on, but Sig nullifies his attacks by landing a devastating fiery punch, burning through his armor. Realizing he is outmatched, Haraji tries to flee while creating barricades to slow Sig down, but Sig effortlessly tears through them. Desperate, Haraji lures him into a trap filled with grenades hidden among his vines, but before he can detonate them, Kai bursts in through the window using his telekinetic powers and lands a powerful punch, sending Haraji flying towards Sig. Meanwhile, Sig prepares a scorching hot punch and delivers a fatal blow, brutally wounding Haraji and leaving him in the ranks of fallen warriors. His organs destroyed, Haraji collapses to the ground as Sig reunites with Kai and thanks him for the assist. Just then, Haraji, fueled by the power of sheer will, revives himself by using his vines to pump his own heart and sets off his bomb trap. This distraction allows him to escape, but he only manages to reach the lower level of the building. Kai shields Sig from the explosion, and the two descend to search for Haraji. They don't have to look long. Haraji is barely clinging to life by the staircase. In his final moments, he declares that he is satisfied knowing he will see their downfall. With his last strength, he uses his vines to collapse the entire building. At the same time, Rinmain notes that over 20 people are inside. She reasons that this is natural, given it is the event's center. Regardless, even if others know about the codes, she alone possesses the Diamond Ring's code. She sneaks inside, intending to search for the treasure, but immediately changes her mind when she spots Wang and his 20 men scouring the area. With fewer than 98 players left in the game, she deduces that Wang must have called in outside reinforcements. Searching for the treasure is impossible with him present. Despite this, she places her trust in her teammates and proceeds to gather more information. As she moves forward, she is abruptly discovered by a clan member possessing a wolf-like sense of smell. He catches her scent, and no doubt every single one of you watching is wondering how that feels, you perverts. Anyway, Rin utilizes her abilities to escape, maneuvering past several pursuers and putting some distance between them by leaping over the train tracks. She dashes upstairs and attempts to flee, but to her shock, Wang suddenly appears in front of her and captures her instantly. Wang interrogates her, demanding everything she knows about the treasure. Rin insists she knows nothing and doesn't even have a ring to offer him. Unmoved, Wang smirks villainously and reminds her of her position by mercilessly breaking her left arm. When he questions her again, Rin feigns cooperation and begins telling him about an ancient Chinese poison method where venomous creatures are placed in a pot to battle until only one remains, the deadliest of them all. She asks if this doesn't remind him of himself, the so-called King of Venom. However, Wang clearly isn't a Marvel fan and instead grows furious, declaring he will cut off her fingers one by one until she tells him everything she knows about the treasure. At that moment, Shuka's chain strikes above them, releasing a flash grenade that blinds everyone in the area. This allows her to rescue Rin and bring her to safety. Rin thanks Kaname and the others for their timely rescue, and they now stand face to face against Wang and his clan. Kaname proposes a negotiation, stating they have vital information about the event and are willing to discuss terms. However, if negotiations fail, they will fight to the death. Wang followers scoff at their proposal, declaring that the 8th clan only takes what it wants and will slaughter them all, sparing just one to extract information. With that, the battle begins. Ghost opens fire with his machine gun, while the others retaliate. Amid the chaos, Rin and Kaname break away to find the treasure, while Shuka and Sui team up to freeze their opponents. Just then, Wang materializes before Shuka and effortlessly shatters her chains. Ghost swiftly intervenes, firing at Wang and declaring himself Wang's real opponent. He understands that Wang ability grants him teleportation within a 5-meter radius, and allows him to cut anything within a meter. This effectively makes him a swordsman capable of closing short distances instantly. Ghost concludes that maintaining a distance of 10 meters or more gives him the upper hand. Wang, irritated by Ruba's interference, orders his subordinates to distract him, forcing Ghost to reload. Seizing the opportunity, Wang teleports instantly in front of him and slices off his hand, ensuring that Ghost will be a lefty for life. Meanwhile, Kaname urges Rin to focus on deciphering the final clue to pinpoint the treasure's location. Giving her some space, he watches as Rin engages the deep search feature of her ability. Channeling her inner Einstein, she mutters some nerdy jargon before finally cracking the code and determining the treasure's true location. Outside the station, Wang prepares to finish Ghost off and turn him into sashimi. Ghost, unwilling to go down without a fight, resolves to take Wang with him in a suicidal explosion. However, before he can act, Kaname arrives and tells Wang to halt. Holding up a key, he declares that he knows where the treasure is and offers to exchange the key for his team's safety. Wang reminds Kaname that the only deal is take and take, he won't leave alive. Ghost uses his sigil and realizes Kaname is bluffing to distract him. Wang claims not to believe him, but Kaname piques his interest by pointing a gun at the key, threatening to destroy it unless he agrees to his proposal. Wang pretends not to care, but Ghost sees through his lie. Kaname explains that the treasure was discovered by cracking the code from the rings. Initially, they pointed to Shibuya Station, but the diamond rings code 888-1 held the final clue. He deduced that 888 referred to the Hachiko statue and found the key there. He then realized the code was for a safety deposit box at National Bank Branch 1. While Kaname tells his story, Ghost detects that he made it all up. The question is whether Wang will buy it. Wang finds the story plausible but lacks proof. The reward from the rings is already in the billions, so the treasure must be worth far more. He also considers the rumored special privilege granted to the winner. Finally, he agrees to Kaname's proposal but says only Kaname's life will be spared. Ghost is out of the deal. Kaname accepts, saying he only teamed up for the event, and Ghost internally thanks him for creating an opening. Kaname throws the key towards Wang, who instinctively moves to catch it. Kaname reveals the key is just for his scooter. The real code was for the locker beside him, and he quickly opens it, ending the game. The event's completion teleports everyone away, leaving Kaname alone with a box inside the locker. He sighs in relief and opens it. Inside is a smartphone. The phone rings, and an admin of the D-game introduces himself as the interface builder of the app, explaining Kaname's rewards. Kaname earns 10,000 points as the base reward, half of which is distributed among his friends. Additionally, he gains 1,237 points for survival, totaling 6,237 points, worth about $4.2 million US. Beyond that, he is granted one wish, though impossible requests like reviving the dead or immortality are not allowed. Kaname immediately asks to quit the game, but the admin refuses, stating that doing so would go against his interests. The only way to leave is by completing the game or killing the admin and deleting the game entirely. Considering his options, Kaname makes a wish that will help him survive without killing others. The admin grants it and, as a final gift, reveals his sigil's name, Fire God of Iron, before teleporting him away. 2 months later, the media covers the incident as a terrorist bombing, with no clear explanation. Meanwhile, Kaname and his friends haven't attended school in 2 months. Yoda decides to visit Kaname to plan for summer vacation. At Shuka's mansion, she tells Sui a twisted version of the Three Little Pigs, where all the pigs get eaten no matter what. The real lesson, she says, is to get a strong, modern building instead of straw or bricks. They begin searching for a base for their clan and consider eliminating the 8th clan before they become a problem. Elsewhere, Haraji's daughter receives a 300 million yen check from an insurance agent after her father's death, but refuses to accept his death. She meets Rin, who offers to provide information about her father. Rin confirms the check is real, worth about $2 million US. At the Danjo boxing club, Ghost gets his arm restored by Keed, wife of the club's owner, Danjo. Danjo explains that their deal with Kaname involved healing Ghost and strengthening him. While his club is a regular kickboxing dojo, 26 of its members are D-game players. Danjo himself joined the game to gain sigil powers and is now strong enough to take down tanks. Danjo tells Kaname their agreement is complete and asks about the proposal Kaname made 2 months ago. Kaname states that, as clan leader, he wants to form an alliance. Danjo is open to it but says alliances require mutual benefit, so he challenges Kaname to a one-on-one fight to prove his worth. For the first time, Kaname feels genuinely excited for a battle and accepts the challenge. Meanwhile, Yoda arrives at Kaname's house only to find a member of the 8th clan waiting for him. Curious, he asks if he is Kaname's friend and if he can talk to him. At the boxing club, Danjo and Kaname prepare to face off in an underground arena. Danjo, ranked 4th in the D-game ladder, won a major event, allowing him to host exhibition matches with sigil users for points. He wants to test Kaname's worth as an ally. The only rules, minimal damage to the building and no intentional killing. Kaname starts by activating his sigil to create a machine gun, but Danjo charges in and nearly crushes him. Kaname dodges and counters with hand grenades, but Danjo tanks through them and shatters the floor with his punches. Kaname fires a handgun, but Danjo closes in to disarm him. In response, Kaname conjures a blade, but Danjo remains unimpressed. Kaname then summons a scorpion submachine gun, forcing Danjo to take cover behind a pillar. Their battle is watched by Inukai, Ghost, and Rin. Rin notes Kaname's rapid growth, while Ghost reveals he introduced Kaname to an arms dealer. However, Ghost warns that Kaname has used all his tricks while Danjo has yet to activate his sigil. Suddenly, Danjo lifts a massive stone block as a shield and throws it at Kaname, knocking him down. Danjo pins him, declaring the fight over, but Kaname pulls out a grenade, forcing Danjo to activate his sigil, which hardens his body. The grenade turns out to be a flash bomb, allowing Kaname to escape and aim his gun at Danjo's head. Danjo, acknowledging him as an equal, agrees to form an alliance. Just as the fight reaches its peak, a masked girl suddenly appears, seemingly cutting both fighters down. However, they are unharmed. Danjo recognizes her as Liu Zuolan, the rank 1 player. She declares she likes Kaname, having bet on him in a past event, and swiftly kidnaps him after knocking out his friends. Rin and Ghost rush to inform Shuka and Sui. Shuka, furious, declares they will rescue Kaname, her exclusive pet. Using a tracking feature, they pursue Liu. Meanwhile, in Liu's car, Kaname is tied up. She explains she wants to train him as an assassin, believing in his potential. She reveals she comes from a 2,000-year-old assassin clan searching for a successor, and offers marriage as part of the deal. Kaname dismisses the idea, already struggling with Shuka's obsession. When Liu's butler, Simon, warns they are being chased, Liu calls Shuka and demands their retreat. Instead, Kaname shocks her by urging them to crash the car if necessary. Amused by his defiance, Liu listens as Kaname proposes a deal. He will join her clan if she can escape the situation without killing any Sunset Ravens members. Shuka and her team close in. Rin attempts to shoot Liu's tires, but they are bulletproof. Sui initiates a clan battle to activate the game's concealment mode. Shuka climbs onto the car roof to engage Liu, but Liu counters with her energy sword. Shuka quickly recovers from its death state effect and continues fighting. Their duel ends in a stalemate. Liu then plants a device on Shuka's car, causing it to lose control. As the gap widens, Kaname intervenes by throwing liquid-filled containers. Shuka detonates them with her chains while Sui freezes Liu's tires, causing an explosion. Both cars stop, and the fighters step out. Kaname declares victory, but Liu challenges it, pointing out Shuka's precarious position. Simon, however, admits defeat, stating that fixing the tire would allow Shuka to attack, forcing Liu to eliminate to proceed, violating Kaname's condition. Accepting her loss, Liu acknowledges the Sunset Raven's victory. Kaname then invites her to ally with his clan. She refuses but instead decides to join them to judge his worth. While no one, especially Shuka, is happy about it, Kaname agrees under the condition that if Liu betrays them, she must betray him first. She accepts, and the Sunset Ravens gain Liu and Simon as new members. Meanwhile, Wang and his clan have captured Yoda, stripping him of his ability to play the guitar by severing all his fingers. They record a video message and send it to Kaname, issuing an ultimatum: come to them, or his friend will lose the ability to walk next. Upon receiving the video, Kaname is overcome with rage and guilt, blaming himself for Yoda's abduction and the irreversible loss of his fingers. Despair consumes him as he wonders how his friend will ever lead a normal life again. In his frustration, he repeatedly slams his fists against the wall, but Ryota intervenes, urging him to think logically. They assign Rin the task of gathering intelligence on Wang's hideout. She turns to her friend Katori from the Icy Crown clan, who informs her that Wang's group is holed up in a warehouse near the bay, with around a dozen to 15 members remaining. Among them, Wang and Kai are the most dangerous sigil users, but there is no sign of the notorious flame demon, Sig. Rin speculates that perhaps Hiragi already dealt with Sig and returns to their base to discuss their strategy before setting out. As she prepares to leave, Katori makes a request. She wants to join their clan. Rin hesitates but agrees to relay the request to their leader nonetheless. The following morning, Wang waits for Kaname to arrive, watching Yoda sobbing on the floor, his hands now fingerless. With a smug smirk, he remarks that Kaname is too kind-hearted to let anyone suffer because of him. It doesn't even matter that Yoda is just some random guy. Kaname won't let him be harmed further. Suddenly, one of Wang's subordinates bursts in, warning that the entire hideout is surrounded by law enforcement, including SWAT teams. Wang sneers at the cannon fodder outside and orders Kai to take care of them. Meanwhile, Wang himself moves toward the back entrance, cutting down the unsuspecting officers attempting to breach from the rear. As chaos unfolds, Shuka silently executes the plan by dropping a phone near Yoda. On the other end of the call, Kaname urges him to click the link to join Darwin's game, by any means necessary, even if he has to use his tongue. nose, or feet. Yoda struggles at first, accidentally disconnecting the call. Determined, he tries again and finally manages to tap the link, activating his sigil. To his astonishment, he is granted an incredibly powerful ability, the power to move objects with his mind. Wasting no time, he utilizes his newfound ability to free himself from his restraints. Just as he begins to revel in his strength, one of Wang's men approaches, gun drawn, ready to execute him as ordered. But Yoda retaliates, flinging his attacker aside like a ragdoll. He reasons that Kaname must have wanted him to use this power to escape, so he unleashes havoc within the warehouse. His rampage continues until Wang himself steps in, effortlessly reminding him who the real boss is. At the same time, Kaname assumes the worst, that Yoda has failed to fight back. Determined to take matters into his own hands, he accelerates a car toward the hideout, planning to storm in and rescue his friend by force. As they approach the entrance, Rian and Sui are dropped off, ready to execute their respective roles. However, their advance comes to a sudden halt as Kai steps into their path. Fortunately, they have prepared for such resistance. Inukai steps out, volunteering to take on Kai himself. Meanwhile, Kaname and Ryota prepare to infiltrate the building and rescue Yoda. Outside, Inukai faces off against Kai, revealing that he knows all about him. Kai was once a semi-finalist in an All-Japan Karate Championship, only to have his career cut short when he accidentally killed an opponent. Inukai presses him further, questioning why a former martial artist would stoop to becoming Wang's lackey. Kai coldly responds that someone like Inukai could never understand Wang's greatness. He recalls how, after his tragic accident, he was shunned and vilified by the victim's family. The pain tormented him until Wang approached him, offering wisdom from his twisted philosophy: pain exists because you have killed too little. Kill more and death will become insignificant. True to Wang's doctrine, Kai found solace in the chaos of Darwin's game. Inukai listens, appalled by the sheer stupidity of the logic. He sighs, noting that he feels his IQ dropping just from hearing it. Deciding there is no point in further conversation, he officially challenges Kai through the game app and launches into combat, initiating the fight with a powerful kick. Kai counters with a force field punch, prompting Inukai to step back and assess his opponent's strength. He then dons his goggles, activates his sigil, and dashes forward with lightning-fast martial arts combos. Meanwhile, Rin executes her part of the plan, efficiently taking down some of Wang's men while directing Sui to manipulate ocean water. Sui does so, enabling Shota to freeze the remaining enemies in ice. Having dealt with the cannon fodder outside, they proceed toward their next objective, positioning themselves for what appears to be a decisive victory over the 8th clan. As the battle rages on outside, Kaname and Ghost finally confront Wang, who greets them with a malicious grin. They demand to know where Yoda is, and Wang casually states that he already sent their friend back. Suspicion creeps in as Wang gestures for them to turn around. With growing dread, Kaname follows his gaze to a blood-streaked box sitting ominously behind them. Heart pounding, he kneels and hesitantly opens the lid. His breath catches in his throat as horror overtakes him. Inside the box lies a grotesque sight: Yoda's severed trash stuffed within. Devastated, Kaname breaks down, tears streaming down his face as he recalls every life lost under his watch. Just as his tears dry up, Wang assumes that he has finally shattered Kaname's spirit. With an air of boredom, he turns away and instructs his men to end it all, claiming it's no longer amusing. However, before they can react, Kaname swiftly turns back and guns them down, marking his first direct eliminate in the series. The unexpected move catches everyone off guard. Kaname then speaks, saying that he initially believed that the game forced people to eliminate as a matter of survival. But in truth, Wang and his crew were nothing more than human filth who would murder regardless of any game's existence. With this realization, he abandons any traces of mercy, methodically shooting down more of Wang's men before challenging Wang to a serious fight. Wang, intrigued by Kaname's sudden surge of confidence, lunges at him with his power, only to be ambushed by Shuka, who drives a weapon into his back. She taunts him, calling him predictable for relying on the same repetitive combat pattern. As she skillfully leads him onto the roof, Wang's forces encircle Kaname and his allies, weapons at the ready. However, Kaname seems to be imbued with an unstoppable force, tearing through his foes with brutal efficiency. Ruga joins the fray, ensuring that no enemy is left standing. This battle reveals a chilling side of Kaname. The potential to be a ruthless assassin is now undeniable. Meanwhile, inside the warehouse, Shuka takes cover, knowing Wang is hunting her. Wang, confident in his superior abilities, calls her out in a lewd, taunting manner. Unbothered, Shuka steps forward and delivers an insult so sharp it could slice through steel, questioning if his mother abandoned him in a toilet. Amused by her defiance, Wang boasts that he has studied her abilities and knows she is not a random brawler, but a skilled fighter. He acknowledges her power to control chains but still lunges forward, attempting a direct assault. In response, Shuka attacks with her chains, yet Wang effortlessly cuts them apart using his sigil. However, instead of pressing forward, he suddenly collapses face first onto the ground. Looking down in horror, he realizes that one of his legs has been severed, now lying uselessly on the floor. Panic takes hold, and he vows to eliminate her, activating his teleportation ability to appear behind her. He swings his weapon for the kill, only to be horrified when his own severed hand drops to the floor. Stunned, he desperately tries to understand what is happening. Is it a glitch in the game? Or does she possess an ability more formidable than his own space-cutting power? Shuka coldly asks if he is ready to lose the last 2 limbs he has left. That's when Wang notices thin, nearly invisible wires crisscross the entire warehouse. She explains that she had meticulously set these traps in advance, and it was his own reckless movement that caused him to sever his own limbs. Disbelieving, Wang argues that wires alone couldn't slice through bone. Shuka clarifies that while that's true, her sigil grants her control over any wire-like material, including threads and chains. By vibrating the wires at high frequencies, she essentially turned them into high-speed saws, slicing through him with surgical precision. With Wang now immobilized, Shuka binds him in her wires and prepares to deliver the final blow. Desperate, Wang executes a last-ditch effort, switching places with her using his teleportation ability. But his relief is short-lived. Shuka still holds the ends of the wires, and with a single motion, she severs his remaining leg. With only 1 limb left and death approaching, Wang frantically uses his full power to teleport 100 meters into the air. He successfully breaks his fall with his ability and smugly declares himself the true protagonist, having once again escaped the clutches of death. However, when he looks up, his confidence crumbles. Kaname and Ruga stand before him, calmly asking if he is ready to die. Terror-stricken, Wang pleads for his life, transferring 1,800 points to Kaname as an offering. Unfortunately for him, Kaname scoffs at the pitiful amount and reveals a hidden advantage: his privileged access to a special poker feature. This feature allows him to place bets on battles and adjust his wager at any moment. A high-stakes poker game, an all-in bet forces opponents to match it. For this battle, Kaname wagered everything and emerged victorious, securing over 8,000 points. This means Wang's entire clan is financially ruined. With no points left to their name, Wang and his followers face the inevitable. As dictated by the ruthless mechanics of Darwin's game, losing all points results in immediate elimination. One by one, Wang's clan members are transported into oblivion, piece by piece, until nothing remains of them but a memory. Days later, with their enemies vanquished, the Sunset Ravens seize a massive building to serve as their headquarters. Their influence spreads rapidly as they claim Wang's former territories and even encroach upon Nobonese's domain. They establish a new rule: anyone who dares to play Darwin's game within their territory will face death. They do not dispose of unnecessarily, but those who violate their laws are left with permanent injuries as a warning. Their reputation grows, their dominion expands beyond Shibuya, and soon, their control reaches across the entire Kanto region. This marks the beginning of Kaname and Shuka's ultimate mission: to dismantle the madness of Darwin's game once and for all. Determined, they vow to rise in power until they uncover the game's creator and personally put an end to them. That concludes the anime recap. As always, if you enjoyed, let me know down below, and I'm out.